Hello, thank you so much for joining us today. This is gonna be weird because I'm doing, I'm gonna be the presenter too. So I'm gonna go ahead and just let you know the housekeeping thing. So you will be on mute for the presentation and your camera will be turned off. There will be a recording of this presentation available on YouTube and it's being live streamed right now. So you had to accept an agreement for that. So yeah, thank you for joining us on this beautiful day outside. It's lovely weather. I guess the last hurrah of beautiful days before it gets cold. So hopefully I'll get to spend some time in y'all's garden today or this week while the weather is still nice. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nedra, who's going to talk a little bit about what the Department of Environmental Equality and Sustainability does. And all right, take it away, Nedra.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vanessa. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is having a lovely day. As Vanessa said, it's such a beautiful day outside. So wish we all could be outside enjoying it. And if you are, kudos to you. But as Vanessa stated, my name is Nedra Richard Morgan, and I work in the Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability. Our division is one of 70 city departments and divisions, and our day-to-day focus is on environment and all things involving it. Our topic range from A to Z, air quality to green living to zero waste. For an example, under the topic of green living and air quality, the city of Dallas has a new first urban forest master plan, and you'll be hearing more about it in the months ahead. Today's program is a great topic about seed libraries, and to make it even more special, it's been presented by our very own Vanessa Conley. Seeds are everywhere right now. The grasses have beautiful feathers and showy displays. Flowers of all colors and sizes are in seed with the change of the color. Vanessa will tell us about the renovation of the sixth floor of the J. Eric Johnson Library and provide other details and information about the program. Vanessa is so dedicated and is a dedicated environmentalist with a lot of experience in gardening, cultivation, and wildlife. She developed her love for farming and growing things at an early age on her family farm, and that enthusiasm has not worn over the years. She is currently working to be a Dallas County Master Gardener and is in their training program. Vanessa is also an inspiring partner for the virtual program we produce almost weekly, the Grow With Us, Earth Day Every Day, and Earth Kids. She works with us to develop a wide variety of interesting topics, helps invite guest speakers to the program, produces the marketplace listing, and each program on the Dallas Public Library event site, and supports the program technology along with Jordan Bach. We have a wonderful partnership with them, and I learn something new all the time. So with all that being said, I am going to turn this program over to Vanessa and allow her to teach us more about the seed libraries. Vanessa?
Sorry, I did the rookie mistake of not unmuting myself. Thank you so much for the introduction, Nedra. I enjoy working with y'all. Like you said, my name is Vanessa Conley. I work for the Dallas Public Library. So yes, the sixth floor, as you can see behind me, is all renovated and open. I think there's still a few finishing details that need to be done, but it is very nice up here. I'm sitting at these lovely tables. I will try to give you a little bit of a view in a minute after our presentation. And let you see what's going on in the seed library, which you can kind of see on camera already. Let me go ahead and share my screen for my presentation. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, I'm not used to being on this side of the camera here. Let's see. All right. So seed library. Well, you may be thinking, well, what is a seed library if you're not familiar with it? So a seed library is a depository of seeds held in trust for the community at large. And that's really what it is. It's a community held seeds. So just like everything in the library is for the community, the seeds are for the community as well. So let's learn a little bit more about how the seed library got started. So there was a proposal by two really awesome co-workers, Mark Draz and Catherine Gilman, to start a seed library. It was implemented in 2016, so it's been going on for about 5 years now. And it was inspired by other seed libraries. The Bay Area Seed Interchange Library and the Richmond Grove Seed Library were kind of like the front runners for this. But actually, seed libraries go back a lot further. At one point, the government actually held seeds for farmers that they could use. And there's also like even larger seed depositories. There's one in Scandinavia and there's one here in the US where all the seeds are in climate controlled to kind of preserve the biodiversity that we can with seeds. That's one of my favorite quotes because I think it's a perfect combination of the things we're doing here at the library. So he who has a garden and a library wants for nothing. So, you know, if you have a library, you can do your own research, you can learn things. And if you have a garden, you can feed yourself. So I think it's a lovely, perfect partnership. Some people may think it's a little bit odd to have seeds in a library, but, oops, sorry, I think I went the wrong way. But, you know, there's a reason to have seeds in the seed library. So seeds hold information just like a book does. So inside, you know, your seed, if you were to crack it open, there's a little embryo that's in there, and that has all the information it needs to grow into the plant that you saved the seed from. Just kind of like you can get knowledge out of a book, you can get that information from the seed by growing that seed. And so it makes sense for the library to take on this job of organizing, cataloging, and preserving that seed information. And this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. So before the 20s, the seeds were distributed by farmers, to farmers by the government to kind of encourage locally adapted seeds as well. And there's a long tradition of people saving seeds. Seeds have been found, you know, in caves in the US Southwest that are thousands of years old. So seed saving has been going on as long as people have been cultivating crops. And the seed libraries can help play a role in protecting the community's food heritage by protecting local heirloom varieties, those unique varieties that maybe we can grow here, but you can't grow elsewhere. So I know it's hard these days with everything being online and on the internet. I buy seeds online, but when possible, it's good to have local seeds because there's that local adaptability. So you know those seeds that you save have grown well in your garden. They've adapted to whatever microclimate we have here. And it's a really good way of ensuring better success for your seeds by saving them. And if you were at the presentation last week, the really excellent one by the Master Gardeners, and she covered a lot about how to save seeds. So I may go over a little bit, maybe a little bit redundant information, but if you didn't see last week's, you'll get kind of a refresher. And if you saw last week, it'll just be a kind of a reminder. So we have several goals for our seed library, and the number one being access, ensuring that the public has access to seeds and the stories that come with them. So if you ever donate seeds to the seed library, if there's something special to your family or to your heritage, please, please, please include that information in your donation because I think it makes it a lot more special if people understand where the seeds are coming from. Community health. So having localized seed helps local food security, helps combat unhealthy eating habits. I know my nieces when they were a certain age, didn't want to eat vegetables, but when they grew them themselves, they were much more likely to eat them because they were involved in that process. And also, you know, what we're here at the library is for education too. So we're promoting seed and gardening knowledge to a wider audience. Again, we want to increase self-sufficiency and community resilience. I know seeds the past year have been a little bit harder to get just because everyone is growing their own food, which is wonderful, but it's exceeding the capacity of a lot of the seed production companies. So they expect to see seed prices go up. So I think it becomes more and more important that the library have a resource like this. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, locally adapted seeds ensures better success. You know, seeds that are raised, say in Washington State, may not be as well adapted to be able to grow here as seeds, you know, grown here. So I always say, if possible, if you can't get locally grown seeds, get seeds that are grown more in your USDA growing zone, which I believe we're 8A here. And you'll have a little bit better success, but you can't always do that. So if you can't get locally adapted ones, you can't get, you know, ones grown in the same zone, just grow anything because anything is better than nothing. And then plus, if you save those seeds from what you grow, then as long as they're open pollinated, seeds, they'll grow true to type, and then you'll have locally adapted seeds that you can share with other people as well, or the seed library if you like. So again, a little bit this was covered in last week's presentations, but I'll just go over it again. So what are the benefits of a seed library? You can save money by growing your own food and saving your own seeds. Some people may argue on the on the saving money part. You know, gardening, like any hobby, can get expensive depending on what you put into it. But if you have soil and compost, which you can do yourself, then you can definitely do it for a little bit less than what you're buying it for at the store. So our seed library focuses on varieties that are ideal for home gardeners. So commercially grown things, they grow them for the ability to travel and keep really well, not necessarily for flavor and for diversity of biodiversity. So growing these heirloom varieties, growing these local varieties, they're more flavorful. If you ever tasted a tomato from the store versus your homegrown tomato, there's no comparison. Tons more flavor in that homegrown tomato. One of my things, I was just talking about how I'm usually pretty much an introvert, but if you get me talking about gardening, I will talk about gardening all day. So one of the great things is you get to hang out with like-minded gardeners and share information. And gardening, you know, is just, like this says, good for the soul. And it's a very zen activity for me. So when I'm feeling stressed, if I just go out in the garden, it helps relieve that. There's studies that show, you know, gardening is great for stress levels. It's good for just your overall well-being. Now, when those pests are eating your plants, it can seem a little bit more stressful, but we just realize it's all part of nature, and you know, you'll still get some food out of it, even if the pests attack. That's kind of my philosophy behind it. I always just grow a little bit extra for the critters, I like to say. And so the goal is to work with nature and not against it. So, you know, again, growing these locally adapted ones help you have to put less inputs into it. So less, even if you're using less organic pesticides, you know, less water if you're getting really well adapted plants. And, you know, these seeds are a generational thing. So seeds have been passed down for generations. And so we're continuing that tradition of seeds being passed down. And sorry, I can't see part of my presentation here. And growing from, you know, we're like, it's the whole, you know, not to get Lion King on here, it's this whole circle of life. And so we're becoming more attuned with nature as we're growing things. I think in our modern life, you know, technology is great. I'm able to do the Zoom presentation because of technology, but I think we've lost a lot of our connection with nature. And what better way to connect with nature than growing your own food? You know, you get to see those, even if those caterpillars are eating your plants, they'll turn into butterflies. You get to see the whole kind of like this is rhythm of nature. It's just like a beautiful thing, I think, to be able to grow these seeds and share them with people. All right, and we've actually expanded the seed library over the past few years. So in addition to the seed library here at the J. Eric Johnson Central Library, we have one at the Martin Luther King Jr. branch, located over by Fair Park, the Lakewood branch, and then we just recently started one at the Highland Hills branch that has been really popular, and that's located down near I-20 and between I-35 and I-45. We're hopefully maybe going to expand into some other branches too. I know that Hampton, Illinois is interested in having a seed library, and the Mountain Creek Library as well. So hopefully maybe one day we'll have seeds in all of our branches. So where do these seeds come from? This is the old location here before the floor was renovated. That's our first floor mascot, the DPL Dino there. He was checking out some seeds one day. And so I'll show y'all the new location in just a little bit. But where do these seeds come from? Like the seeds that DPL Dino there is holding? Well, most of our seeds actually have been coming from commercial donations. So either stores that are, you know, getting rid of their seeds at the end of the year, companies donating them. People sometimes will just bring in seeds that they haven't grown. And then we also do, which is the goal, we're looking for more and more locally safe seeds, again, for that local adaptability. But I would say probably right now, 75% of our seeds are commercial seeds and about 25% of them are locally saved or donated seeds. So what do you want to, if you want to donate your own seeds, there's several options. You can drop it off at Central on here on the 6th floor, or you can leave it at a branch and they could actually send the donations to Central. So whatever your local branch is, just let them know that you're donating those, and they'll send them our way. So we have a donation form, and after the presentation, I'll drop a link for that in the chat. And the donation form provides guidance about what seeds we can accept. We want as much information as possible that you have about the seeds so we can share that with other people so they can make an informed decision when they're deciding to grow those seeds. Also, we need clean and dry and properly saved seeds. So if they're not dry, please don't donate them to us yet, because they can get moldy and they can actually kind of mess with the other seeds that we have in the collection. So please make sure that they're fully dry and labeled as well. And then if you fill up, again, the donation form with as much information as possible. And I'll cover a little bit of seed saving basics in just a minute. And there's some of our locally donated seeds. You can see that they're labeled. They filled out the form with as much information they have. And again, if you have those stories, we would love to hear those stories. One of my favorite is I have some okra seeds that I saved, and I donated some to the seed library, but I think I need to donate some more from this year's crop. But those seeds, I was at a community event or community gardens, and someone brought those seeds that their family has been growing in Arkansas for probably like 100 years, and they brought them to the DFW area when they moved down here, and they've been growing them here for about 20 years. So those are very regionally adapted seeds. They don't even know the variety name. They just call them, I think they just call them stubby okra because they're the short okra, but they make really good canning okra, and they're very, very prolific. So I will definitely try to donate some more of those that I saved from this year. But those are the kind of stories we want to hear about the family saving them. And again, very, very prolific. I don't have any problems with pests for those because they have been grown in the area for so long. Okay, so you can donate seeds, but you can also get seeds. You can visit, again, the Central Library, MLK Library, Lakewood, or Highland Hills to browse the selection. You can also email seedlibrary@dallaslibrary2.org, and the seeds will be sent to the requested branch, just kind of like we do with curbside or other requests. They'll be available there at the branch for you to pick up. And it usually takes a few days. I would probably give it almost a week to get them to your branch, just because we have to pull the seeds and then our delivery services has to take them there. And we also, as part of the Seed Library, do seed library programs. So we do outreaches, go to community events. This is the really cool book bike that goes to downtown events. And we're starting to do more of these recently. So if you ever have a community organization event that you would like us to attend, please just send that email to that Seed Library, and we will see if we can get someone out to your event and bring some seeds too, hopefully, to share with the community. Again, this is what the 6th floor used to look like. Nothing like what it looks like now. And so we had a event where the Seed Library kickoff, and there also was seed sorting, and we're hopefully going to have more events like that in the future. And this is our wonderful volunteer Leslie, who's talking about saving seeds at one of our branch locations. And also we had the portable seed library there too. And this is one of my favorite events here, and hopefully we're gonna be able to do this again next February or March, and that's a seed swap, which is amazing. So we took a bunch of seeds there. People brought a bunch of seeds. As you can see, someone even brought some onion sets to share for people to grow. It was a great, great community event. A lot of sharing of ideas, how to grow things, what grows best, what varieties grow best. So this is kind of the whole purpose of the seed library is, to be out in the community and to get the community involved in growing. But like I said, hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon. And we also do this series of programs to grow with us. So it's every Monday. We do this in partnership with the Department of Environmental Quality and Sustainability. And you can find those on our calendar and register for those. And our one next week is will be 2 presenters from the Women, Infant, and Children program here in the city of Dallas, and they'll be sharing some nutritional information about how to incorporate more fruits and veggies into your holidays, which is something I think, we have our regular things that we like to eat, but it helps to add a little more fruit and veggies, and maybe get some ideas for what to use. If you're like me and you have 6 butternut squash that's sitting on your counter from your squash plant ready to be cooked, get a few ideas about what to do with those. And I'm going to cover now a little bit of seed saving basics. This is, if anybody can guess, it's arugula. So this is arugula that I've let go to seed for 2 reasons. The flowers, the bees really love the flowers on this, and 2, to save the seeds because I love arugula. And arugula is one of those plants, once you have it, you almost always have it because it reseeds so readily. Some of it will come back in the spring probably for me too. And you can see here in the background, I have some mustard plants. And again, I let those go to seed. It will affect the quality, when you let your plants go to seed, it will affect the quality, especially of lettuces and other things. It's called bolting, and they will become more bitter. So it won't be edible at this point once you let it go to seed for a lot of things, but again, save the seeds and for the bees. And I harvested a lot of mustard out of here before I let it go to seed too. So it's one of those things that grew back. And then on the right here, we have some long beans, which I grew for the first time last year. I did not grow them this year because they are extremely prolific and grew everywhere, and I need to build a better trellis for them before I can grow them again. But these are 2 things that are very easy to save seeds from. And this is a quick guide here about what's easiest to save. So obviously beans, peas, tomatoes, and lettuce are easy to save because they're self-fertile. So you don't have to have another one to cross with it or anything. They're big enough for you to see where the seeds are. Just really super easy to save. Some things you have to worry about crossing with other varieties are peppers and eggplants, but sometimes it's kind of interesting to see what crosses you get. And then if you want to grow absolutely true to type, things like your cole crops, like your cabbage, those kind of things, your cucumbers, melons, those kind of things will cross with other things. I got this really interesting squash that was a cross between a butternut squash and an heirloom variety I was growing, but it did really well, and I had about 50 of them, and people told me to stop giving them squash. So sometimes you can get some interesting combinations, but if you want to grow true to type, then you do need to isolate the plants. And then there's some plants that just prefer being hybridized, like corn. So if you want corn to grow true to type, I think it's something ridiculous that you have to have like 3 miles in between corn crops to avoid hybridization, because again, it just naturally likes to cross with other things. So we don't really recommend, saving corn unless you're only growing one variety and your neighbors around you are not growing a different variety. But again, you might get some fun corn hybrid. And I don't have a slide for this, but again, make sure your seeds are thoroughly dry. Roseanne covered this a little bit last week, but also it's good to remove them from the pod before you store them, just so you don't have that extra organic matter to break down. What else? So if it's absolutely dry, you can store it in a plastic or glass container. But if you're not sure it's absolutely dry, I would recommend, like this shows here, storing it in a paper sack until you're sure it's absolutely dry. Also, label. I cannot emphasize this enough. Label your seeds, because as much as you think you will remember what they are, I have had some seeds that I'm like, oh, I grew 2 different things that look similar here, and I'm not sure which one this is. So definitely make sure that you save, save the information. I always save my seed packets for the year. So at the end of the year, I will just, if I save from a particular variety that I've grown from a seed packet, I just staple the seed packet to the bag that I'm drying them in, and then I tape it to the jar that I'm storing them in. And that way I have all that information for next year, and I don't have to re-look it up. That's just my tip. And then again, if you're donating your seeds, provide as much information as possible. I know some seeds are a little bit more difficult to process. So if you need to donate those without all of their seed coat removed, kind of like the basil seeds, those are a little bit hard to isolate. Then you can go ahead and donate those in the whole form, and we can try and process them here. Let's see. So just a few resources here. The Seed Library of Los Angeles has a lot of great seed saving basics. Let's see, howtosaveseeds.com has a really great vegetable seed saving handbook. There is a seed saving guide on the Seed Ambassadors website, and Seed Savers Exchange also has a seed saving chart that is specific to each crop. So I will send out those resources in the follow-up email as well. And then, of course, we're here at the library. We have an amazing amount of gardening books. This is just 3 shelves. There are many more shelves. Even if you're not able to make it here to the central library, we have a great request system. So you can request books be sent from any library to any other library, as long as they are available. And again, that process takes maybe 3 to 7 days. It just depends on where it's going to. And you can browse our catalog online. You can even call and ask for some recommendations. Gosh, there's so many that I would recommend that I can't think of them at the moment. But I just recommend people reading different sources. Everyone will have a different technique, so sometimes you just have to find what works best for you. We have books on seed saving. We have books on growing seeds. Even like we have a lot of cultural histories about seeds and plants as well. So I recommend you check some of those out. And here's our contact information. And this was a huge donation that we got that we were sorting through. And we're hoping to maybe in January, February, have a seed sorting party. We have a bunch of donations that we have that, we need a little bit of help going through. So hopefully we'll be able to have some volunteers come in maybe January or February and help sort seeds out for us. So our web address is there. And again, I'll drop this link in the chat in a little bit, and our email address and also our phone number there. And I'm going to stop sharing at this point. And sorry if I talk too fast. I am a fast talker and I try to slow myself down, but it's hard sometimes. So let's see, stop sharing. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm catching up with the chat here. Yes, the taste of the grown vegetables. Yeah, it is hard to eat store tomatoes, although I'll do it in the winter sometimes when I'm desperate for a tomato. I also have a ton of green tomatoes right now. Hopefully they'll ripen up before the frost, but if not, you can have some fried green tomatoes or make some tomato relish and pickle it. There's a lot of fun things you can do with green tomatoes. So there's a bunch of different gardening clubs around the DFW area. I do not personally belong to any of them. I've talked to some of them before as part of the seed library, but I know there's a lot of Facebook groups too where you can connect with people as well. And let me get to these questions and then I'll go over to the seed library here. See. Oh, thank you for putting those forums in the chat, Nedra. Yes, basil. Basil is tricky. What I personally do is just rub them off the stem, and I don't bother separating the flower parts from the seeds. I'll just plant the whole flower part, and actually I think it kind of helps me get a distribution. But you can get a fine mesh screen and rub it over there, and the seeds will fall through and leave the flowers on top. Arugula, I usually plant in early March. It's pretty cold tolerant. Just really depends on what the seed temperature is, but I've had it germinate in pretty low temperatures, like high 50s, low 60s. I also will sometimes try to plant a fall crop, and sometimes I'll get some before it freezes, but it doesn't do as well in the freeze, but it will tolerate pretty cold temperatures. Um, yeah, yeah, Vaughn. Yeah, when it's something I'm enthusiastic about, you're right. I will talk super fast about it. um, tutorials for harvesting seeds like lettuce, greens, and broccoli. Lettuce is actually pretty easy to save if you let it bolt. Something I didn't cover is that if you don't want your plants to bolt or keep producing, you need to keep harvesting, and also hope for the weather doesn't get too hot for things like lettuce. Like lettuce and greens, you just have to let them flower. So if it gets too hot, most greens and lettuce will do it on their own. They'll send out the stalk. Let me go back to my presentation real quick and I can show you. It's the same with broccoli too. You just have to let it go to seed. So you have to let it flower and go to seed. But let me go back to my presentation real quick here. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. I have a picture here. Go back. So these right here are mustard greens. And so they send up the stalk here, and then eventually it'll form pods. And then you can save the seeds from the pods. And it's the same with lettuce and broccoli. Broccoli will go to seed, it will flower, it will send up a little pod, and you just let the pod get as dry as possible on the plant. However, they do tend to pop open and put their seeds everywhere. So you have to watch them and make sure you get them before they pop open. Or actually, Roseanne shared a really great tip last week that I hadn't thought of. And she ties organza bags over ones that tend to just pop and put their seeds everywhere, and you can save them that way. Oh, let's see. Oops, sorry, wrong button. And planting right now, it's hard to say because it's Texas and our weather does crazy things. I was harvesting tomatoes into December last year because we didn't have a freeze until then. But I would say if you have something you can cover, in case we get like a frost. Right now, our probably the soil after having some warmer days is warm enough for the lettuce to germinate, and kale, those kind of things. Again, if we get a really hard frost, you might have to cover them. But I think the soil temperatures are probably warm enough for them to germinate right now and get hopefully big enough to be able to survive a freeze. Oh yeah. Once things are established, like in the brassica family, like they usually, again, unless we have a really hard freeze, they'll usually overwinter in Texas pretty well. I don't know if we're gonna have a snow apocalypse again, like we did last year, but even my stuff that I covered bounced back. There's some damage, but it bounced back. All right, I am going to move now and show you a little bit of the seed library over here. And I apologize if I get cut off a little bit. I kind of had to jury rig a camera setup, so I'm going to move over there just so you can get a little bit familiar about what we have. All right. So this is a repurposed card catalog here. So we have these handy dandy planting charts available up here and planting dates for North Texas, which are really great. And I will also try to drop some, send those in the follow-up email as well, some planting charts that are good to help get you started on when you can plant what. So we have it divided into the types of vegetables and fruits. And also you'll see these green stars. I don't know if you can see those, but those indicate the ones that are easy to grow. So things like beans, I mentioned lettuce, peas, peppers are all pretty easy to grow and save. Some other things like eggplant and tomatoes. So tomatoes are pretty good about growing true to type if you save them. However, saving the seeds can be a little bit difficult there's a fermentation method that works really well. So basically you let them ferment in a jar, and then you can separate the seeds out from the pulp part of it. There's some other techniques out there too for saving those. And then if I just pull open a drawer, so we have lettuce here. It's really a self-service model. So you can take a whole packet if you need a whole packet, or if you're gonna share it with other people, or if you just need a few seeds, we have, let me find some here that have envelopes in them. Well, we may need to put some more envelopes out. Usually there's envelopes in the drawers, as well as these little tags that you can write down what kind of seeds, or you can just write down on the packet what kind of seeds you have. And then what some people do, they'll take a picture of the front and the back of the seed packet and save it that way. But yeah, we have lettuce, we have different flowers, nasturtiums. It's not the right time to plant right now, but you can plant those pretty early in the spring and have some nasturtiums there. Uh-oh, it looks like we need to restock our tomatoes. Now, tomatoes are tricky to start. If you're starting them from seeds, you really need to start them indoors in February so you can get them in the ground as soon as possible. They'll grow for you all summer, but they're only produced at certain temperature ranges. So it's best to get those in as early as possible after the last freeze date. So yeah, usually I start those in about February as seeds. So we have gotten a whole lot of donations of native plants. So I think we may have to add a native drawers to it. There's also a supply drawer down here, which we'll need to add some more envelopes to. And I was really wanting to show a sample of the envelope, but I did not see any there. Oh, well, here's kind of like what they will look like. There'll be small envelopes like this. You can just write what's on there. And then again, I guess if you're getting a commercial donation, then you could put the, take a picture of plant. So yeah, we have lots of seeds available to grow. I think a big mistake first-time gardeners is that they just think you can plant anything, anytime, which in some climates you can do that. In Texas, you cannot. So we have a fall season and a spring season. And usually fall season, you'll start planting in August or September, and spring season, you'll start planting like February, March, again, depending on what the last freeze date is. And also, just a personal tip, if you want to grow carrots, start your carrots in the fall. You'll get a much better crop in the spring than if you start them in the spring. I don't know why that is, something about the growing conditions and the soil temperatures, but I've had much better luck growing carrots, starting them in the fall and then harvesting them in the spring, and you get some really lovely things. And let me grab my phone here. Oops. Oh, sorry. And just kind of give you all a quick preview of the Seed Library's new home here. So this is the new 6th floor. It's got this great activity space here for community gatherings. We have these tables here. And we have the really cool lights, the computers. I don't think are quite online yet, but those will be soon. We have all the lovely stacks of books. I love these. And there's this great meeting rooms here now. And there's really awesome chairs like I was sitting on. They're actually pretty comfortable. They got the maple leaf there, or sorry, the oak leaf. So yeah, if you have a chance, come down and visit the Seed Library here and visit the 6th floor. It's really pretty. I'm going to go back to my computer now and see if there's any more questions.
We've got a few.
All right. Let's see here. Yeah, Judy, I'm really excited about the new space up here. So once we can do more in-person events here at the library, I think it'll be a great space. Need grow lights for growing tomatoes indoors from seeds. I've had much better success using a grow light. You can get them pretty inexpensively. Like I think I only paid like $12 or $15 for mine. And it does make a huge difference in the strength of your plants, if that makes sense. Because if the light source is further away, they will grow tall and spindly to try to reach that light source. But if you can put a grow light right next to them, it mimics more of what they would experience outside, and you get much stronger seedlings. I also have a low level fan that I blow across the seedlings because that back and forth actually builds up strength in the stem. So I get like just a small like USB fan and blow it across them on the lowest setting, and that helps strengthen them up as well. And if you're trying to grow peppers from seeds, I found a heat mat, which you can also get pretty inexpensively, makes a huge difference in getting your pepper plants to germinate because they like a little bit more of the warm temperatures to germinate. So I've had so much more success since I've started using the heat mat and the grow lights than I have in the past. And also make sure, even if you're using a grow light, to harden off your plants outside, don't put them directly in bright sunlight when you first take them outside. Put them like in a shady area or on a porch, and let them adapt to the outside light before you put them in the full bright light. I remember the first time I was so sad that I tried to grow tomato seedlings. I got what's called photo bleaching because I moved it from the darker area out into the bright light, and the plant leaves just don't have the, I think it's the chlorophyll to kind of handle that, and they'll just totally bleach out. And I was very, very sad that I lost all my seedlings that I'd raised. So definitely do the hardening off process. It helps them get used to the outside conditions before you put them out there. All right, do we have any more questions about the seed library or saving seeds or growing seeds? Oh, actually, I brought a few from my garden here. See if I can find them. See if the camera will show them. Oh. Someone last week's program asked about zinnia, so I brought a zinnia here for my garden. This end of the season, so they get a little bit smaller towards the end. Again, if you want to keep them producing, keep cutting them back. If you want to save for seeds, you just have to let them start drying out, and then they'll stop producing as well. So this one's not completely dry, but if I just pull on the petals, I don't know if you can see that. There's these little arrow here things on the end of, and that's what you'll save there. And these I would let dry out completely before I put them in any kind of storage. But zinnias, you almost don't even have to save unless you want to grow them someplace else, because they will reseed themselves very easily. And you'll get zinnias everywhere in your garden. And then let's see. So here is so I had mustard reseed itself. I didn't plant mustard for the fall, but it reseeded itself, and I'm getting another mustard crop. But this is a seed pod from the mustard while it's still green. And then this one has actually, I should have cut off before it's dried outside, but we've had some wet conditions. And so you have to watch that too, because you can, I don't know if you can see, but there's some mold on there. So I probably would not save these seeds because the mold on that pod. But if I break it open, I don't know, these are teeny tiny. I don't know if you can see the seeds that came out of there. So the mustard seeds came out. And that's something else when you're saving seeds, especially things that are large like beans and peas. See if you can see any visible insect holes, because you really don't want to save those. If you just save seeds for long enough, you could actually kind of, when you're picking it up, kind of gauge how the seeds feel, like the weight of the seeds. And if it feels really light compared to the other seeds, you probably don't want to save that, because it probably means something has hollowed out on the inside and there's not a viable plant in there. I know Roseanne shared last week that you can put the seeds in a glass of water, and the ones that float for the larger seeds are usually the ones that are not good. Oh yeah, you can yeah, definitely use the seeds. You can grind them up and you can make your own mustard. I have not done that, but that'd be a fun project. Oh yeah, saving seeds for zinnias, yeah. That's funny, Grace. It is amazing. It becomes addictive once you start saving seeds. And, you know, some of our seeds in the seed library are commercially donated. And like I mentioned, they're a little bit older. And that's something I didn't cover that Roseanne covered last week too, about your germination. Your seeds will germinate for, if they're stored properly, for several years, actually. You know, it just depends on the type of seed and how it's been stored, but you can get germination out of seeds for many years sometimes. A quick way to, she covered this a little bit too, is if you have a wet paper towel, you put the seeds in there, put it in a Ziploc bag, and you can test your germination and viability. If you want to get really scientific about it, you can count out your number of seeds and then get a percentage of germination based on how many germinate out of, let's say you have 10 seeds and one germinates, you know, that's only 10% germination, so you may not want to plant those seeds. However, if you get at least 50% germination, what I do is I just plant twice the normal amount of seeds. And, you know, there you go. Oh, so it's tricky. It's tricky, Judy, because you don't want to trap moisture in that will cause your seeds to mold, but you also don't want the seed to lose too much moisture also, if that makes sense. If there's a certain amount of moisture in a seed. So once the seed is completely dry, then you can store it in plastic. But again, it depends on if you're storing it more long term. I think short term, definitely paper is okay to store it in. But if you're storing it for several years, you may lose too much moisture out of it. Let's see. Yvonne, if you want to get the best germination, I would leave them on there as long as possible. Again, if it gets wet, you may want to trim them before it rains, just so that you don't get the mold on it, like I showed on that one. But I mean, you can try and see if they'll grow. If you let one dry and open it up, you can tell by the size of the seeds. If the seeds are really small, compared to your, you know, a normal okra seed, it's probably not going to grow, if that makes sense. But usually seeds need to start turning brown and start forming that hard seed coat to be good to save. If you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever opened like a okra and you see, you know, it's kind of the white seeds. If they haven't started getting hard, then they definitely will not grow more plants. But if they, you know, are starting to get hard, then you may be okay with it. But I usually try to, at the end of the season, just let them just dry on the plant. Yeah, it's not, it is complex, but you can start off easy with things like beans and things. And they're pretty easy to save. But you know, it's just, you'll learn the more you save. It's like anything in garden, the more you do it, the more you become comfortable with it. It's like any you know, hobby or thing you learn how to do. The more you practice and the more you read about it, the more you learn. I mean, I've been gardening my entire life, and I still learn something new, probably, if not every day, at least every week. There's so many plants out there, even just among vegetable and fruit growing, that there's always something to learn. Okay. Oh, you do have some brown seeds. Yeah, definitely say the brown one then. Yeah, trial and error, a lot of experiments. Yeah. And you know, that's why some people will, if you're growing the same thing, some people will space out their seeds. So they'll start some one week and then in another area start some more from that batch. You know, the various growing stages, so you can harvest at different times that way. And also, if there's bad conditions for one growth stage, you'll have some others that are a little bit further along or a little bit further behind, depending on what the growing stage is. So succession planning is another way to kind of encourage more success in your garden. And something Roseanne covered a little bit differently, which I didn't talk about today, is saving from as many plants as possible. So not just saving from one plant, and that way you'll get a little bit more genetic diversity too amongst your seeds. But yeah, it's like Yvonne says, just trial and error sometimes, you know, kind of like cooking. You can follow a recipe exactly to bake a cake, and it will come out differently from various micro things. Like maybe it's humid outside, or you know, there's a lot of, even though if you use a set recipe, even if you weigh out your ingredients, you're not going to get an exact result every time. So, you know, part of the magic too, I think, is just planting the seeds and seeing how they grow. Everyday magic. All right. Do you have any other questions? All right. Well, I will send some those resources and information in the follow-up email. A recording of this is available if you want to share it with anybody. And we have Roseanne's recording. I'm not sure if it's up yet or not on the YouTube page. We had a little bit technical problems with that last week. But she had a great program if you missed it last week on how to save seeds. And we have a bunch of other really great programs on our YouTube page that we've done in the past for Grow With Us that cover a whole wide variety of topics. And there's also the wonderful Earth Day Everyday programs. And there is some overlap because we'll talk about natives and some plants and some pollinators. So there's a lot of really great programs on there as well. Our program next week is going to, like I mentioned, is going to be the adding more vegetables and fruits into your holidays. And that will actually be presented bilingually. So it'll be both in English and Spanish. And I'm dropping the link to that in here. And then if you want to learn more about some of the wildlife you may see creeping around your garden, there's also be the Trails and Tracks program for Earth Day Every Day. And I'm grabbing the link for that too. And, you know, like I said, it's kind of disheartening when the wildlife gets a hold of your garden, but it's also part of nature. And I always, like I said, just like to plan a little bit extra for them too. Although I know squirrels are always a problem for everyone. And I found that growing sunflowers, the squirrels left my tomatoes alone. They went for the sunflowers instead of the tomatoes. And so as beautiful as the sunflowers are, once they, you know, make the seeds, the flowers will die anyway. So I didn't mind if the squirrel stole them. So that's something that I found this year that worked really well is the sunflowers distracted. It was the easy meal, I guess maybe tastier for the squirrels. So they went for those instead of my tomatoes. And the same thing with my tomato hornworms. I transplanted them from my tomato plants, my pepper plants, to have a huge datura plant, which is in the nightshade family as well. And I just moved them over there and they were happy as to be munching on the datura instead. And so I'm not eating the datura because it's poisonous. I was happy about that setup. So, you know, again, it's like working with nature, not against nature. So just finding those things, you know, using companion planting and growing things that are adapted well to our area can ensure a little bit more success. All right. Well, thank y'all for listening to me rattle on about something I get very excited about. And thank you so much for joining us today. Nedra or Judy, did y'all have anything to wrap up?
No, not at all. I think you pretty much covered everything. Really great information. I'm definitely going to go back and review this this program. So I don't have a garden yet, but I know I'm learning such valuable information. I hope everyone else is as well.
We're gonna get you there. Nedra.
Yes.
We're gonna get you in the garden. And Grace, yeah, that's a good point. We do need to have like a companion plant program. We'll plan that for the spring.
Sounds good. Yes.
All right. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of the beautiful day. If you can, go out and work in your garden. If you can't get anything planted, there are some cover crops you can plant right now. I think there's a type of pea you can plant for the winter as a cover crop, and I think you can plant rye. So if you can't plant any food crops, plant some cover crops, make your soil happy, and keep the weeds out of it for the winter at least. All right. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.